first thing I saw this black sky. You go from light to dark, dark to light, in the same day, in the same actually hour.
They did not come to take Kuwait. They came to Kuwait to destroy Kuwait.
Everything has changed now. Everything is difficult for us now. For food, we have to stop in the lines. Water, we have only 2 days weekly water.
They took everything there. It was empty. Al-Aish, before it was so beautiful place, but now if you go there, you will see only damaged buildings or nothing else.
We happened to have a satellite dish that was sitting there at Riyadh that we were using for Desert Facts.
We had the idea to let the people at least communicate with their relatives abroad, to tell them they're okay.
We left the border about 11 o'clock at night. We crossed the border. We got here about 3 o'clock in the morning.
It was just after the war was over. The tanks were still there. The road still had craters. There was Conestoga wire all over the place, and you could see the obstacle course of the minefields which the Iraqis had put in. You get closer and closer to the city, and even during the daylight hours, it became very dark.
We started probably assembling the dish somewhere around 1 o'clock that afternoon. We started putting it together. It was completed by 9:30 that night, and the circuits were up and operational.
In the beginning, you would see lines of hundreds of meters. People are standing in line to make phone calls. They used to stay from 8 o'clock in the morning till 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon to make phone calls. Phone calls basically were people calling their families outside Kuwait to tell them that they are safe and they are okay.
How can I tell you, the first time when we gave this service, it was, how I say, beautiful.
Some people were crying, some people were laughing, some shouting. They didn't know what to do. They were so happy to hear their relatives.
We are still thankful to AT&T what they have done to us and the government of Kuwait for all the facilities provided to us. Because it is only through them we conveyed, or my family come to know that I'm still alive here. And that was a great, great thing. We can't forget throughout our life. Thanks very much.
Any company could probably come in and provide some kind of voice data link for international service. But I only think that the AT&T network in the States could support the number of calls that were pumped to New York out to the world.
We arrived when the Kuwaitis were probably at their lowest point. They were euphoric because the war was over, but the reality of the whole situation was setting in. They were no longer scared or very anxious because of the threat that was on the ground. What they were faced with is the rebuilding of their country.
We have here in Kuwait 28 exchanges. The 28, all of them, they were down, they are not working.
They have looted most of the equipment. They have transferred some of the switching systems to Iraq. They have looted all our stores. We have millions and millions of stuff in the stores, cables and equipment and telexes and everything. There's nothing there.
The main feature that the Kuwaitis were looking for was very high technology with unbelievable response time. They said, we must have international call capability immediately. We have our petroleum sector, which is dependent upon trade. We have our financial and banking sector, which is dependent upon international data flow.
We knew we had a great product, and we had made some offers with these trailers in other markets. And it just occurred to us that this was an office on wheels, and what better situation than a situation like that in Kuwait, where the network was, as far as we knew, devastated.
We pieced together the proposal, which was handwritten for a gateway international switch and for a local 6,000 line exchange to be delivered in 60 days.
We knew that would be a challenge. We knew it would be a challenge because we hadn't done a full project in a country that we had never been in before in that short a period of time.
One characteristic that happened in all this was that the data was flowing back and forth so fast that we weren't able to do a detailed proposal on every submittal we made.
It was very close to a handshake. And we basically put the handshake on paper and then we went. So we did this whole job on one piece of paper, a single letter of intent. we engineers tend to have a desire to fix things. We want to make things work. That's why we're engineers. And as a telecommunications person, what a challenge. I mean, how many times in a career do you get a chance to put a country back in service? So it was very exciting. And knowing that we had the product, and I really believe in the 5ESS Gateway, knowing we had that, and knowing that this would be a showcase for what we could do.
To put it in a trailer or a mobile unit and then connect it to a satellite dish was something that we hadn't dealt with. That was a little scary.
In our discussions with the developers and the verification people and all the team that did all the real nuts and bolts work, we asked them, how fast can we do it? And they said, how fast do you need it? We said, as fast as it can be done.
I think we all have to understand that the schedules, this is probably going to be the tightest schedule we've ever worked with.
One of the challenges was working with the customer from a distance without having very good communications in and out of the country.
Because the equipments are not there or some of their switches have been destroyed.
Kuwaitis themselves were very busy trying to get their equipment back in service. It was a challenge to make things happen faster than they had ever happened before within our own processes. Whenever I talked to people in the daily teleconferences that we had, of course, problems were always discussed, but they were never discussed in a way that was a woe is me type of an attitude. It was always, well, here's what we got to do, what's the solution, how are we going to get past it?
Avi, what is that going to do to the FOA efforts?
I'm just looking at the people around this table. I think it's going to have a major impact on our testing activities. So we have to work around that, that's no question.
And so we worked from the beginning with the assumption that we could do something no other vendor could do, and that was give them complete service restoration based on our products and our equipment and our people from the very beginning. And we knew we could do this more quickly than anybody else.
Installers were able to work from our drawings and put this baby together from start right to a finished product.
They are the best in the business or they wouldn't be here. I have to have the best because of the short interval. I have to have people that can get along, and of course you hear a lot of them ribbing each other, but they are very compatible, and I'm really proud to be part of them.
We had to conserve every inch of space. The floor is on a moving bearing system, so that the bays of equipment could be moved forward and back for access behind. The other thing was the consideration of the cabling. Always cabling in one direction, never having to cable over and back for anything.
I'm running 2 crews around the clock wiring this thing. I've got people still putting cable in there, and as soon as they get one in, somebody grabs it and starts putting it down. My schedule's ASAP. I'm a communications tech. The reason I come into communications is to give people if they have better communications, maybe they'll have better understanding and they'll forget about fighting each other.
When your FOA team gets here, your first order application team gets in and starts to check out, everything's ready for them. And it takes a lot of coordinated effort to do that.
Now it's up to us with the software. We've been doing testing in the lab environment. We've been doing testing on computers that simulate the switch, but now's our opportunity to actually do testing on the switch. So in the next few days, that's where we'll be going with this. And then the same crew that is working here to test the switch, the majority of them will be going into Kuwait to also set the switch up there and make sure that it's working there. We have to do recorded announcements, and they have to be done in Arabic. And we know we're not going to have the facilities to do that when we get in Kuwait, so we looked around and said, who speaks Arabic? 3 people raised their hand. That's an aspect, that's the international aspect that we've got at AT&T.
If there's a shortcoming somewhere, or if somebody can't do something or needs help with doing some, part of the task, everybody else is willing to jump in and do it, because we all feel that, we are a big team and we have to accomplish this thing. And that's the only way you can do it.
No one can get this amount of equipment in such a small area. We can deliver more lines per square meter than any switch on the market.
The nice thing about the 5ESS is that it's a duplicated environment. There's a lot of redundancy. In other words, if one part of the system goes down, it always has a backup. What we can do is we can take this test equipment and set it up to be able to actually put in an error. You know, you not only want to test what's working, but you want to make sure that it fails correctly also.
When you put that much electronics in such a small area, you're going to have a high heat load and high heat dissipation that requires you have more air conditioning and more power, and it's just more of everything. If the commercial power goes down, we operate off of a generator. And if the generator fails and the commercial power fails, then we have the battery, and that will supply the power for approximately 2 hours.
What we're doing is evaluating the airflow through filters which are going to be required for this trailer in order to protect it from the environment that it's going to experience in Kuwait with all of the corrosive gases and soot particles associated with the oil fire.
Most of these guys I've worked with before, we all run into each other on all these projects. There's only so many people that do these things. We pulled dial tone yesterday, so we know we can do that. It always works. That's why I have a job. When the day comes where I don't make it work, I'd probably be unemployed.
45 days ago, it was nothing more than an empty van, a shell of a van. And now we have a complete modern telephone exchange, complete with raised floors, drop ceilings, emergency lights, fire alarm circuits, air conditioning, the whole 9 yards. In talking with the Air Force, they've asked us to reduce that height down in order to get it into the plane and give it plenty of headroom in case they hit air pockets and whatnot. By putting on the smaller tires, we are able to lower the truck 6 inches, which is more than enough to go into the C-5A.
I should be in Kuwait by Wednesday and phones turned on by Thursday, so I'll give you a buzz. Okay? See you later.
Yeah. It's great. You think about it. I mean, it's a total telephone exchange. You're going to fly this baby halfway around the world. You're going to know what manhole we're going to drop it in, or what cable vault we're going to tie it to, or if we're going to tie it to a frame. They know where we're going to tie it up right now. So we should be able to drive straight to that termination point, start our connections, and within a couple of hours start making calls. Now, what other competitor can do that? No one. And it's all AT&T's products, 100% our products. It makes you feel damn proud to see it all put in one big can.
We don't have enough communication to start again with the suppliers overseas. Everything is now changed. I cannot give any telephone number, I cannot give any PO box, anything. So the only thing they ask me, okay, when you will get, you just send us a fax. Even we don't have a fax to send them. So we are waiting for all these now.
Working with the international companies like AT&T, for instance, makes us feel that we are really moving toward modernization in our communication system. And we will really give the people of Kuwait 100% better communication than before.
With AT&T, I want to thank the people for their help and I enjoy that I'm working with these people. Believe me, I knew them, of course, after all this invasion, but believe me, really, they were helpful for us.
The Kuwaitis will never forget that. This is, yes, thank you very much.
In the old Bell system, when there was a fire or an emergency or something had happened and an office went out, the people that put it back in service talked about that. It was a point of pride. You know, we got this office back in service. In this case, it was much bigger. It felt like we didn't get an office back in service, we got a country back in service. And one of the images that came to me partway through this was that I'm going to tell my grandchildren about the job we did here.